All right, welcome everyone. We are here tonight to talk about mindful habits for dance health. We are the Bridge Dance Project Atlanta chapter. And we have a few things on our agenda tonight. We're going to be talking about how to reduce injury risk with proper stretching and recovery. We're going to talk about foundations for nutrition. And then we're going to have a body positivity, a body image discussion. The Bridge Dance Project is a not-for-profit organization that is, our goal is to be the bridge between dance health and wellness providers and dancers and dance teachers. Therefore, we are the Bridge Dance Project. If you want some more information on this, we have a lot of free resources. We have a lot of virtual and in-person events. If you are interested in joining the Atlanta chapter, you can email us at bridgedanceatl@gmail.com. If you want to start a chapter or join a chapter in your local area, go on the bridgedanceproject.com, and under networks, you can see who the leader is. And if there's not a leader, you can start your own chapter. And then, of course, follow us on Instagram, the Bridge Dance Project, at the Bridge Dance Project. So with that being said, we're going to start with our first presenter, Yenwen. She is native to Taiwan. She currently resides here in Atlanta. She started her dance training at the age of 3 with ballet and traditional Chinese dancing. Yenwen obtained her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance and a Master in Dance Science. She performs professionally with the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, and her thesis for her master's investigates the injury rate among dancers on cruise ships. She is a full level 1 certified Pilates instructor, and she is the founder of Dance Science Wellness, which is a dance and strength training Pilates service to help dancers achieve their full potential in a safe environment. Yenwen, I will pull up your slides.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. First, we're going to talk about some key points to reduce injury risk. Can you go to the next slide, please? I'm just going to touch about kind of like a big major topic. The first one is about warm up and cool down. I know some of you might already know that, but it's always good to kind of have the reminder and why we're really focused on this. And the second one is about supplemental training, cross trainings, and the third one's about rest. You can go to the next slide, please. And today's session, we're going to, I'm not going to it's going to be a little bit of movement. So I'm going to switch on my camera. I'm going to come to my living room. You can see me. So the first one is about warm up. So the purpose of the warm up is to prepare your body for upcoming activity event, physically and also mentally. So it could be either you're going to your class, you're going for an audition, you're ready for a show. So there's kind of like 4 key points that you want to make sure that you cover when you do warm up. It doesn't have to be a super long, like an hour. It could be a quick 5 to 10 minutes. Just get your body ready for it. So the first things that we want to make sure you do is you're going to increase your core temperature. And by doing that, you can do a little simple jumping jacks, like I usually do in my class. I do little facing chains to 4 corners. We're going to jump 8 counts, facing to the front, jump 8 counts to the side, facing to the back, facing to other side, and then one more time, and then start a little like knee hop. This to get your hip flexor warm up, kicking your butt to get hamstring warm up, and sometimes do a little kind of like a funny jump that you're going to turn out, but keep hopping so you can get your heart rate warming up. And I'll repeat that again. And that whole sequence takes about like 5 minutes, and like by the end of that, I'm already like get out of breath. So it's a good thing if you're in audition or you're in a like confined space, you don't have place to like run around, you can just do in place, like, you know, joggings and hugging to get your heart rate get up. Even just by doing that, I'm out of breath. See? All right. The second one is you want to lubricate your joint. So by what I mean is there's a little fluids around your joint, kind of like you have those oils on the car door or like any door, the hinge, to make sure you move smoothly. So for our bodies, you want to do kind of like circle motions, mobilization, your joint, to kind of let your body know, okay, I'm about to do some bigger movement, kind of a little head roll. In jazz class, you do a little like isolation with all direction, your head moving, your shoulder roll, your rib cage, your hip isolation, and a nice good like a plie, and with the arms, right? So you want, by doing so, you're going to increase those fluid around your joints and to help your joint move more smoothly. And you also want to start with the small, more controlled manners and then gradually increasing to larger movement. It's because just think about it, you don't want to shock your body into start like a quick big guanbakman to start with. You want to start slow, like little kick, then gently like let your body, like the blood moving to the muscle, and then move up to the bigger movement. So that's the second one. And the third one is you want to do prepare your muscle for the movement you're about to do. What I mean is, if you're doing a class, so you probably don't really know that what movement you will be doing, then you can prepare in all directions. So the movement goes back and forth in a sagittal plane. So the flexion, extension, you want to make sure your body's ready for the movement. So lateral flexion, just in case you have any movement, and then a rotation, right? Then, or in the horizontal plane. So you want to make sure your body is ready for any direction of movement. Plus, in dance in general, we don't just kind of like run straight forward like in a sport. There's always it's more dynamic, more three-dimensionally. You like jump and you rotate down to the ground. You slide with a nice lunge, and then you do a nice pirouette, and then give you a high kick, and then roll to the floor. You know, it's very dynamic. So you want to prepare your body ready for those movements. But sometimes we start a little stretching because you want to get your muscle warm up to be able to do those like big high kick. What you want to do, instead of doing a passive stretch, like you plot down to the floor and do a nice split second, you want to start with dynamic stretch. Because if you think about your muscle as like a rubber band, so you want to start when you put, for example, if you put the rubber band in the fridge and you're gonna take it out, it's kind of like rigid and cold. Obviously, if you want to pull it right away to the maximum range, it's gonna snap. So you want to kind of warm it up a little bit. And then when you reach out too much, it's harder to snap back too. So you want to make sure you're not doing the passive stretch and stay in that elongated position. You want your muscle be able to kind of like a elastic, you want to reach out and coming back in, like the Elastic Girl in the cartoon. She's a perfect example. All right. So we want to do a dynamic stretch. What that means is you don't want to hold a position more than 30 seconds. You want to kind of move through the range. A great example I like to do with kind of like hamstring stretch you do in a jazz class is that you go into this lunge position and you stay down there and you stay there for, it feels so nice with your hip flexor stretch up, and then you stay in this nice hamstring stretch position. For the same exercise for dynamic, you want to stay in the lunge for 5 seconds, and then come back up to the hamstring stretch for 5 seconds. You want to keep moving through those range. Again, start small, and then gradually you can push a little bit further through the range of motion. So that's a great example. So instead of stay down there, you're going to keep moving and get them warmed up, and then push up to a nice kick. Start small, and move bigger. That make any sense? Okay, awesome. All right, so that's dynamic stretch. So same thing for, you can either do a nice lunge forward to get your muscle warm up instead of stay down. You can also do a warm to plank. So you can walk forward, warm up those core muscles, and then coming back up and move around across the floor. This is also a great way to warm up your shoulder stability, your core muscle. Those are all great examples for a dynamic stretch. And the final one is about your mental preparation. So a lot of times we just we'll focus on the physical, but your mental state is also very important, especially if you're in like the audition setting or before performance. You really want to make sure you are ready and then you're not distracted, because it could be a risk factor for injuries if you're not kind of like focused. So just kind of, it can be also like a positive affirmation, be like, today I'm going to work on my balance, and then like focus one thing at a time. Just get your mental state to ready for the class or audition or a performance that you're ready to do. Cool. All right, thank you. Can we go to the next, please? Right. And so cool down. So also cool down is also very important because it helps to prevent the lactic acid build up in your muscle. So when you use your muscle, the gas exchange, it creates this acid. That's how within your muscle. That's how you feel the soreness the next day. If you work a little bit too much and then kind of tear a little bit, and then there's a little like rebuild process, the whole thing, you're gonna feel that soreness. So while your muscle is, after all the activity, while your muscle is warm and stretched, this is a perfect time for do the passive stretch to increase any flexibility that you might wish to increase. For example, the hamstring, like kicking your leg higher, or if you want to have a nice back bend for your back. So it's a great time to stay in more elongated position for more than 30 seconds. You want to avoid stay there more than 20 minutes. It's gonna potential to pull your ligament or stay in that range, which is not good. You wanted your ligament to be able to support your joint structure while you still have that mobility to do all the beautiful things the dancers do. And I know as dancers, we're busy. We're all hustler, we're go-getter. We have classes. If you're a student, if you're a freelancer, you might have other jobs, and then running go to take classes to maintain your techniques and all that, auditions. So we all have really hectic schedule. So it's good for students to be able to find time to build in schedules for cool down for the students. And for teachers, I usually kind of leave out 5 minutes, even though sometimes you only have an hour class and you try to squeeze as much things to teach as possible, but it's really still trying to find that last 5 minutes to kind of get their heart rate kind of slow down, will be cool down, to help the students to reduce that muscle soreness and then help them to increase flexibility. Cool. Next slide, please. And then we'll move on to the next point, is about supplemental cross training. I recently talked to a physical therapist. He is in the Bridge Dance Project in the California chapter. His name's Rob Ty, and he mentioned this idea of a human first, then a dancer. So we are all humans, and I know we become dancer because we have that love for dance performance, but we are humans first. So we want to take care of body, of alignment first. So in order to add on, like be able to perform the proper alignment in your functional movement, then add on to the artistically presentation or nice double pay or turnout, whatever point work that you do. What I meant is for functional movement is there's a couple of them. The first one, really good one, important one is the squat. So you think, oh, this is like you're working on your glutes. But if you think about it, you glad I'm in my living room. So you sit down to the chair on a sofa, you're doing a squat, you're coming back up, you're sitting back to the chair to the restaurant. It's all part of the functional movement. So what I meant proper alignment is you want to be able to step down to have your knee in line with your second or big toe. So you want to be able to track your knees down in line. That's the alignment. If you have the little knock knee like this, you want to turn your leg out a little bit. So the goal is to keep your femur straight out. So the 90-degree like straight leg is not necessarily applied to everybody. If you have the knock knee, you want to open your feet out a little bit so your femur and your kneecap is in the straight line in the tracking, so you don't put too much pressure inside your knees and create injuries or pressure. And then you have extra turnout, then you want to come turn in a little bit, just find the alignment so when you do your squat, your kneecap is facing straight forward to the front. And then also you want to pay attention to how your feet is standing on the ground. You don't want it to go, when you squat down, go into your pinky side of your heel or inside, collapse on your arch. You're going to be able to hold your feet in the middle. Think about your feet like a tripod. So you have the big toe, pinky toe, and the heels firmly pressed down into the ground. So you have a nice foundation to support your whole body weight. So that's squat. And then another example for functional movement is rotation. You want to be able to rotate. You want to grab something behind you. You're driving a car, looking around. You want to be able to have that rotation within your core without arching your back. Too much pressure on our lower back. So those are all great examples of functional movement. And I would like to say, depends on your goal of your supplemental training. Sometimes with doing ballet, you notice like you just can't jump higher enough. Like no matter how much you repeat the same movement, you might have a little weakness on your glute muscle is not firing properly, or your ankle's a little weak. If you're really easy to twist your ankle, so you might need to figure out how can I strengthen my ankles without repeating the same movement. So there's professionals out there, they can help you. Personal trainer, there were dancers, there are a lot of like myself, like Pilates instructor, gyrotonic instructor, some yoga pre-dancer, and then become yoga teacher. There's a lot of variety of aligned health professional. There are focused on dancers' health that you can find them and really help you to build your body stronger if you have any weakness. You can also look for physical therapists that specialize dancers. They can do a little quick assessment and let you know that, oh, you might need to work on your core muscle a little bit more, or work on your glutes to help you have nice alignment and to be able to achieve the dance technique that things you like or you want. And then you want to find something that you enjoy. Like if you want to increase, like if you enjoy running to increase your cardio endurance, it's great. But if you just absolutely hate running, there are other things that you can do to, for example, swimming. Right? So find something that you enjoy so you can continue to help to build on your strength. I think I mentioned that seek professional help if you need it. So besides the Bridge Dance Project, you can also check out the IADM website. There's a list of professionals that helps dancers. Cool. Next slide, please. Next one, we'll talk about it's about rest. So rest, besides we ultimately usually think about just like sleep is really important. I know that with young dancers or dancers in high school or middle school, like they have busy schedule. So you want to make sure that you get enough sleep so you can function properly, because not enough sleep that is going to create imbalance of your hormones, or in your muscle might not get enough enough rest to recover what activity you did before. This all tying together, so very important. Later on, there's another presentation about nutrition, so you're going to dig deeper about the sleep as well. And another one is about constructed rest. So what I mean is sometimes if you're in crunch time trying to remember all the choreography and rehearsal, you don't necessarily need to keep doing over and over again with your body. You can just kind of sit back and then close your eyes, repeat the information or repeat the pieces and the steps in your mind. It also helps you to remember it without exhausting your body. And next one I would like to say is trying to schedule in the calendar. I know we all have busy schedules, so it's to really make sure you have proper rest or enough break between your class, work, audition, so you can have adequate rest and your body can recover. Yeah, last slide, please. So that's what I have, the 3 key points that I'm presenting today. But the take-home point is you want to make sure you have a proper warm-up and cool-down, and then really understand the purpose of them, and then implement a proper stretching technique accordingly to help you achieve the goal that you want. And the second one is to rest and finding time. And the key word is balance in a busy schedule. So we all have things we want to achieve, but I think balance is the key word, either in life, in nutrition, in training. It's kind of all like you want to be able to find a happy median, find a place that you can have fulfill, like live well. That's what I'm trying to say. So find time, schedule your rest, schedule your cool down, your warm up within your schedule. Make sure you treat your body and then have time to have rest. Yeah, it'll be a last one, please. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me through here. This is my Instagram account, and then this is my email. Again, this is a little quote. Robert told me that he didn't hear from him, like he didn't create that, he heard from somebody else. But I really want to focus on we're humans first, then we're dancers. So really create a strong human body to be able to perform functional movement properly. Then we can build our dance on top of it. So thank you very much. I'm going to open up the floor, and please let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Yenwen. Does anyone have any questions about movement? Dynamic stretching.
Passive stretching. Oh, well, maybe later.
Okay.
They might have it.
All right. So moving on to our next section, we have myself and Yasi. There you are. Hi.
Hi,
so Yasi and I together are part of My Dance Nutrition. Yasi is a registered dietitian specializing in sports and eating disorders based in Los Angeles, California. She works with dancers of all ages. She helps dancers build healthy relationships with food, their bodies, and empowers them through nutritional practice that nourishes and helps them feel their best during training. I am Melissa. I'm a registered dietitian, nutritionist. I also grew up a competitive dancer as Yasi did, which is how we bonded. I danced professionally for a sports team. I was a coach for 10 years, a dance instructor at a competitive dance studio, and went back to school so I can do exactly this, which is bring nutrition knowledge into the dance world. So I will share my screen and we will get started into our presentation. This always takes me a moment. Okay. All right, so mindful habits for dance nutrition. So a little bit about us. We are registered dietitians, nutritionists. We help guide dancers eat enough for their performance while feeling their best. We combat and debunk nutrition myths, and we are not the food police. So we believe that there's an all foods fit approach. We believe in balance, as Yenwen says, that we believe in balance in everything. And yes, we are. I love that quote. We are human first and dancers because we love to dance. This is our passion. And then just a little snippet from our Instagram account. Athletes eat and train. They don't diet and exercise. So we want to eat and fuel our bodies, which is what we are going to talk about.
Okay, so I'm gonna get started here. So now when it comes to being the best dancer you can be, it's really important to take a whole body approach. Each of these elements plays a role in the recipe for success when it comes to being the best dancer you can be. And so when I talk about the whole dancer involves, let's talk about training. Are you doing everything you can when it comes to your training? Are you getting the rest that you need? Are you getting enough fuel? I'm going to use fuel a lot, and it basically means energy and food for your level of activity, for your growth, and then are you hydrating enough, which is very much important. We're going to talk a little bit more about why. And then are you getting enough hours of sleep per night? We're going to talk about that a little bit in this presentation too, about how important it is to get enough hours of sleep each night to support you in your recovery process and your hormone health. And then mental health. I always say when it comes to eating right and feeling good about your body and just, the dance, there's so much that can go goes into dance mentally. And it's really important to take care of your mental health too, to support the competitive life that you are taking part in. Now, what happens if you are not eating enough? These are a few signs that indicate that you may not be getting the nutrition that you need. One of those is fatigue. Are you experiencing mental or muscle fatigue? Now, ways to be able to tell this is it hard to remember routines and choreography? Do you feel like you're getting tired during your dance classes or competition or just performances? Do you feel lightheaded? Do you feel like the room is spinning? Do you feel like when it comes to muscle fatigue, if you are doing weights, for example, or strength training, is it hard to lift as much as you used to lift or go as long as you used to go? With muscle fatigue as well, that would mostly include like endurance health. And if you're just feeling tired doing the movements that you used to be able to do more easily. Soreness and poor recovery. There's a lot of research around making sure that you're getting enough nutrition to prevent soreness. So depending on which part of season you are in when it comes to dance, you may be, for example, in competitive season or like nutcracker season. During these performance seasons, training increases and the amount of training you're doing before performances also increases. And if you feel like you're waking up and you're getting sore or you're not able to take on the level of training that competition and just training for these performances requires, that means you're probably not eating enough because your training should be getting easier for you. And it's called training adaptation. So we want your training to be getting easier for you. And one way to tell is if you're getting enough nutrition. And if training's getting harder, that means you may have to just reevaluate and make sure that you are eating enough. Injury, if you find yourself getting injured often, most common would be like bone-related injuries, stress fractures, reactions, and then any injury as a result of just feeling tired. That may indicate that you're not meeting your needs. And if you're thinking about food more often than you want to be, I would love for you guys to do a little test when you're at home and just make sure you're eating your meals and snacks consistently, and then come back and let us know, are you thinking about food as often? Because sometimes what will happen is if you aren't meeting your needs, you'll be in class or you'll be in dance practice and all you can think about is food. Food might be on your mind. You're like, what am I going to eat when I get home? So if you're finding yourself thinking a lot more about food than you want to be thinking about, that may mean that you're not meeting enough of your needs. And then something called, I mean, I feel like we all know what hangry is. So if you feel like you're irritable or just like angry a lot of the time, that may mean that you're not meeting your needs. Late night eating, or what feels like eating more at one sitting. So with this, anyone that may experience something called late night eating, which may mean like you just want to keep going to the fridge at night, this could mean that you're not meeting enough earlier on in the day. And with dance, you guys are, you know, back-to-back practices after school, and sometimes there's just not enough time to eat consistently. So when you come home, that may be the bulk of your nutrition. So thinking about like, should I be spreading out my intake? Am I thinking a lot more about food at night? And am I eating more at night? This may indicate just underfueling during the day. GI issues. So if any of you, excuse me for my language, but are experiencing constipation, I know that we don't always like to talk about poop, but dietitians love to talk about poop. So if any of you are experiencing constipation or just like changes in your bowel habits, that may indicate that you're not eating consistently. And then hormone health. I've worked with dancers and even ice skaters. Some dancers and ice skaters are not getting their cycles, and they're like, well, that's normal because my friend also doesn't get her cycles. That's not normal. So if you're 15 and older and you haven't had a cycle yet, I would love for you to please connect with your doctor or reach out to a dietitian, because you should be getting your cycles at 15, like by the age of 15. And if you haven't, or if you've skipped cycles, or if you have irregular cycles, connect with a physician to make sure that you're eating enough for your hormone health. Now, dancers who underfuel may be at risk of something called the female athlete or the male athlete triad. They're basically three interrelated components, and you don't need to have all three to be at risk of the athlete triad. Just having one can put you at risk of the athlete triad. So there's something called energy deficiency. We always want your body to be in energy balance. And what energy balance means is you are eating enough throughout the day to support your level of training, and you have enough energy to support your body's functions. Sometimes people don't realize that even when you're just sitting, you are putting energy into breathing, to talking, to your heart beating, to your digestive system working. These all require energy. So it's important to make sure that you're at a place of energy balance. And if you aren't meeting your needs, whether that's intentionally or unintentional, you may be at risk of something called energy deficiency. And when you are at risk of energy deficiency, you are at risk of something called impaired bone health, which could indicate injury. So those stress fractures or the reactions that we just talked about. Other things that affect bone health would be, if you're not meeting your needs, your estrogen would be lower. So when estrogen is lower, what happens is that estrogen helps keep calcium in our bones. And when we don't have enough estrogen in the body, calcium leaks out of the bones, putting us at risk of bone stress injuries. Now, the other reason why you may be at risk of bone injuries is because your adolescent years are so important to make sure that you're getting all of your needs met, because I want you to be meeting your optimal growth when it comes to your health. So everyone's growing at a certain trajectory that's meant for their body. And if you're not meeting your needs, you kind of dip down and you grow at a lower rate, and you're not meeting your optimal growth rate, if that makes sense. So it's really important to get all the nutrients that you need during your adolescent years and early adulthood to make sure that your bones are reaching their peak bone mass. And then menstrual dysfunction, which we talked about. If you're not meeting your needs, lower estrogen, which puts you at risk of not getting your cycles consistently. And then for the male athlete triad, very similar. So if a male athlete is not meeting their needs, they're also at risk of energy deficiency. which can affect their bone health, so puts them at risk of the stress fractures or reactions. And then for them, what reproductive suppression would look like is lower testosterone and then abnormal sperm. And so their reproductive system is also not functioning the way that it needs to be. And then not only that, but what happens is if a male athlete has lower testosterone, they're not able to build strength as efficiently and effectively, and they're not able to build muscle. Now, there's something that was put together by the International Olympic Committee. It's called the Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport. And they basically took the female-male athlete triad and they just added more to it. And basically what they did was, these are all the different components that can be affected when it comes to energy deficiency. So let's look at the health side. Some of the things that athletes may be at risk of may be immune suppression. So your immune system may not be working as efficiently and effectively. So you're more at risk of getting sick. GI issues, which we talked about, so constipation. Heart health concerns. So if someone's not meeting their needs, their heart may be working harder for their level of performance, and that puts an athlete at risk of different heart concerns. Psychological concerns, which we'll talk a little bit more in just a second, growth and development, like I discussed about the trajectory. Metabolic concerns, so when you're not meeting your needs, you're basically going to be functioning at a lower metabolic rate, so that decreases your metabolism. And what I always say is it's so important to fuel your metabolism, eat to support your metabolism. Hormone health, and then various other health concerns within the body, like the cycle health and bone health. And then if we go over to the performance side, what I will normally do if I suspect that an athlete, including our dancers, are not meeting enough nutrition is I'll ask about their endurance performance. I'll say, well, do you feel like your endurance has been affected? Do you feel like your strength's been affected? Do you feel like you just haven't had as much energy throughout the day? Are you experiencing depression or anxiety? Have you been more irritable lately? Decreased concentration, decreased coordination, especially when it comes to like pirouettes and leaps and other dance movements where coordination is so important. And then impaired judgment, decreased training response, which comes back to like during competition season, if you feel like you're able to meet where you need to be at with the increased training load for competition. And then increased injury risk. So what should a dancer's plate look like? We came up with my dance nutrition with this dancer's plate. Melissa will go more into the fruits, but what I wanted to talk about is how important it is to get all of your macronutrients. We believe in having your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. So it's really important to have our carbohydrates from foods like our grains and starchy vegetables like potatoes, because what happens is that the carbohydrates are the most efficient and easy to use fuel source for a dancer. The fuel source that you can literally just tap into and put towards your dance, and it'll help give you the quickest energy for your movements. And so carbohydrates also provide us with something called fiber, and fiber helps our digestive system, and they give us a variety of other nutrients, and they also help contribute to hydration. And then veggies are also technically our carbs, but we put them in a different category because it is still important to get your vegetables for the variety of antioxidants that it can give a dancer. It can help decrease inflammation that can be put on the body because of the increased stress load and training load that can come from dancing. And then protein. Protein is so important for a variety of functions. It not only helps our immune system, it helps with different functions within the body. It helps to keep us full for a longer period of time, and it helps maintain our muscle. And as dancers, we all need that strength and that muscle function. And so with protein, one easy way is to look at the palm of your hand and get at least 3 to 4 ounces of protein at every meal and snack and the thickness of your palm. Some protein sources include eggs, fish, steak, chicken, Greek yogurt, tofu, tempeh, beans, eggs. These are all great sources of protein. And then you want to make sure you're getting enough fats too, because fats are going to help support your hormone health. They're going to help with organ protection. So they'll help protect various different organs, and they can also help decrease your risk of injury.
All right, so fruits and veggies. they add variety to your plate. They add color to your plate. We want to eat the rainbow because different colors have different vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. And the antioxidants are going to keep you healthy during cold and flu season, which happens to be around the nutcracker and competition season. So we want to stay nice and healthy. The antioxidants are also anti-inflammatory, so we can recover faster after dancing. And it also provides fiber, and fiber is going to be really good for your digestion. It's also going to be really good to keep your energy, slow down digestion so you can have a long sustaining energy. And then it's going to be good for healthy bowel movements. So we are dietitians. We do like healthy bowel movements. It also helps with your immune system, your eye health. It can help improve memory. And of course, we already talked about digestion. So we want to aim for 4 to 5 servings of both fruits and vegetables per day. And so if you take your fist, 1 cup of diced fruit or 1 cup of diced veggies is going to be about the size of your fist. 2 is going to be about 2 cups. And then the size of an apple, an orange, is going to be also about the size of your fist. So when building your plate, have 1 to 2 palms of protein. You're going to have 1 to 2 fists of veggies. And then depending on your training load, you can have, 1.5 to 2, sometimes even more of your carb, just depending on your training load. So the dancer's plate was based off of the plate, the athlete's plate developed by the US Olympic Committee. So you can see here, same thing, 1/4 of the plate protein, and then divide the plate in half between your non-starchy veggies and your carbohydrates, which is going to be your starchy veggies and your grains. We have nice, healthy fats from avocado, oil, nuts, and seeds. We have our fruit on the side, and then we have dairy or dairy alternative, and water to drink. And then if you are going into a harder training season, if you have your dance camps, if you have longer rehearsals, if you're going into just back-to-back performances, the hard training plate, we have a little bit more carbohydrates to support that training, to give us more energy. And we do have a handout that talks a little bit more about this that we will email to everybody. Okay, so breakfast. That seems to be the meal that everyone tends to skip because we are usually waking up late and we're in a rush to get somewhere, and breakfast is usually the easiest thing to skip. But it actually is very, very important because we want to we're already starting our day on empty because we have fasted all night because we are sleeping and we're not eating anything in our sleep where our body is recovering. So it's utilizing any stored energy for that recovery process. So when we wake up, we're already on empty. So we need to fill our gas tank so we have enough energy for that performance, for brain health, so we can, perform at school, perform on our tests. And that's why it's called breakfast, because we're breaking the fast. And so it's really important to start our day with breakfast and then continue to eat a meal or a snack every 3 to 4 hours to stay fueled throughout the day. So breakfast ideas, if y'all want to take a screenshot of this, we have a tofu scramble with cheese, veggies, and a side of toast. We have egg and cheese on an English muffin with a piece of fruit. And overnight oats made with oatmeal, milk, Greek yogurt, fruit topped with nuts, seeds, and nut butter. And if you'll notice, there's a component of the dancer's plate in each one of these, right? We have our protein, we have our fruits and our veggies, and then we have our grains, right? So something super, super easy to do, even if you are always in a hurry, is taking your English muffin or your whole wheat toast, putting it in the toaster, taking a little coffee cup, cracking an egg in there, putting it in the microwave for 45 seconds, take some spinach, throw it on top of your English muffin, and then put your egg in your English muffin, maybe top it with cheese, and you're ready to go. You have your own little egg McMuffin sandwich that has your protein, your carb, and your veggies. That's super, super easy. You can eat it on the go. Another easy thing to do is your overnight oats. That's something you can prep the night before and put in the refrigerator, grab it and eat it on the go or eat it really quick. You can have it cold. Some people like to warm it up. So that is definitely something that you can utilize as well. Lunch ideas. Again, we're looking at all of the components of the dancer's plate. We've got PBJ with a piece of fruit and milk or dairy alternative. So we have our peanut butter is going to be our protein. We have our jelly and our whole wheat bread as our carbohydrates and fruit. And then we have a dairy or a dairy alternative to give us some calcium. You can do a turkey salad wrap with turkey, lettuce, tomato, hummus, or avocado. That's something that can be easily prepped in a lunch bag and brought with you as long as you have a cooler pack. And then we have a recipe for Greek couscous salad and chicken bowls. Dinner ideas, again, go ahead and take a screenshot of this. We have a recipe for loaded buffalo sweet potatoes, spaghetti and meatballs with a side salad is good. One sheet pan meals are really easy to do. You just throw everything on one sheet. You've got your veggies, you can put your starch on there, so you can cut up some potatoes, you can throw in some chicken, put everything, on some spices, put everything in the oven, and it's ready to go. Another thing is like a rice cooker. You can throw in your rice with your water, throw in 2 bags of frozen veggies, and then you can put your chicken on top, set the timer, and it's ready in 30 minutes. Super, super easy. These are things that, you can have ready to go. Stir fry is always a nice, really good recovery meal. Snacks. So pairing a carb, which is on the left, with a protein is going to help us have that sustained energy and keep us supporting our muscles by having a little bit of protein at each sitting, so we can continue to build our muscles and what we call muscle protein synthesis. If we are having a longer break during school, maybe having a banana with peanut butter would be good, or some crackers and some tuna would be really amazing. If we have a shorter time, if this is right before dance and we don't have a lot of time, then maybe sticking over here to the left side an easily digestible carb would be really good to have. And a lot of these can be put in your dance bag. Other snacks on the go, you can grab some bars. Those will stay really good in your dance bag. Some trail mix. These are some things that you could eat if you have a little bit of a longer break in between classes. And again, really easy to always keep with you in your bag, in your dance bag, in your purse, in your car, so that we know that we have a nutrition plan that we're eating every 3 to 4 hours to help support our energy needs. And then, are you hydrated? So signs of dehydration are fatigue, muscle weakness, difficulty concentrating, nausea, confusion, poor balance. If your pirouettes are kind of unstable, that might be a sign. Emotional stress. And all of these are things that we don't want to feel on a normal basis, let alone a performance day. And so we also need fluid in our veins and in our arteries, because we want our body, we want to help our heart. We want to help our heart pump the blood to where it needs to go, because our blood is carrying our oxygen to our muscles so we could move, so we can leap, so we can turn, so we can perform. It's also carrying our nutrients to our muscles so we could have protein to recover, so we can have carbohydrate for energy. So we can have carbohydrate for our brains to remember choreography. So all of this is going to be more efficient if we have enough fluid in our bloodstream. So we have to stay hydrated. And how do we know if we're hydrated? Is we look at the color of our urine. It should be light, like lemonade. If it starts to get darker, like apple juice or iced tea, then we know we need to drink more water. The recommendations are going to be about 9 to 12 cups. Carry your water bottle around. Like, carry your water bottle around, but drink it too. Try to get one of these in before lunch and maybe another one after lunch, and then sip on it throughout your dance rehearsals. We want to be hydrated before we get to dance, so we have the energy so that we need, and that we're not like extremely thirsty when we're in dance class, right? We should be hydrated before and then continue to hydrate after dance class so we can prepare for the next day. And so just an example of a schedule. So we might wake up at 6, our breakfast. At 7 a.m., we've got an egg and spinach cheese sandwich on whole wheat bread with a piece of fruit. 7:30 a.m., we might have class, we might have school. We want to sip on water, try to get 1 to 2 water bottles in before lunch, just depending on how large your water bottles are. 11 a.m., we might have lunch. We can do a turkey wrap with lettuce, tomato, avocado on whole wheat tortilla, carrots and ranch with baked chips. And again, continue sipping water, maybe try to get another water bottle before our dance starts. 3 p.m., right? Because that's about, about 4 hours later. We want a snack. So maybe some applesauce and some string cheese would be really nice. And then 4 p.m., usually our dancers start, we usually start right after school, right? So sip on water, have snacks that are easily accessible in our dance bag so we can eat during breaks. And in between classes, maybe have a couple of crackers in between changing classes, sip on some water, keep that energy storage up. 8:30, usually, we're coming back from dance class. We can have dinner, stir-fried mixed veggies with brown rice or quinoa, add chicken, shrimp, or tofu. And again, continue sipping on the water to rehydrate and be ready for the next day. 10 p.m. bedtime, have a technology cutoff so we can get some rest. And then Yasi is going to talk about sleep.
We briefly talked about sleep in the beginning, and with sleep, there's been studies done on basketball players, which I still say that anything that's done on any athlete is going to pertain to our performing athletes as well, which include our dancers. And there's been studies done where an increase of 1 to 2 hours of sleep each night has helped with coordination, accuracy, and throws, for example. So, and just mood and increased performance, endurance performance. So I think it would be really great to challenge yourselves to increase your sleep by 1 to 2 hours each night if you can, and meet somewhere between the 8 to 10 hour range. So for the general public, the recommendations are 7 to 9 hours. And for athletes, the recommendation is an additional hour each night to help support their recovery process from all the training that they're doing throughout the day. So it's going to be really important to try and increase your sleep and try and sleep around the same time each night to support the kinds of movements and training that you are doing each day and participating in. Sleep also helps your hormone health. So the hormones that are involved in our fullness and hunger cues. So if you are not sleeping consistently or just not getting that full 8 to 10 hours each night, you may be at risk of just your hormones being out of whack. So by that, I mean, you may feel like you need to eat more throughout the day to keep you up. And you may just not know what you are when you're satisfied when it comes to your food. So that would be a fun little challenge, is to make a goal of getting this 8 to 10 hours each night. Now, where do I begin when it comes to meeting my needs? Well, as Melissa discussed, it's really important to break your fast by eating breakfast. And the goal will be to be eating every 3 to 4 hours. So instead of going 0 to 100, let's focus on going 0 to 40. And by that, I mean, let's think of one small goal we can incorporate throughout our day and our week and stick to that and see how we do when it comes to that. So let's start with not skipping any meals or snacks and just get what you have access to when it comes to your nutrition and see how you feel. Also make it a goal to hydrate and carry that water bottle with you when you can, and make it a goal to get like 4 sips every hour if you can. Set an eating schedule and plan out your meals. So maybe get your other dancers involved and get your family involved in planning out meals and snacks and with foods that you enjoy. And connect with a dietitian if you can. And if you cannot connect with a dietitian at this time, you can always follow our Instagram for dance nutrition resources. It's My Dance Nutrition. And we have a variety of fact sheets that we have put together for dancers, which Melissa will be emailing out. And these have recommendations on snacks, meal ideas, nutrition timing, recovery, tons of different recommendations that will support your health and your dance performance. And if anyone wants to, pull out their phone and kind of take photos of any of these recipes, we've included these recipes here. Here's a little chicken bowl recipe, and you can always swap out, if you don't eat animal products, you can always swap out the chicken for tofu. A couscous salad, this looks awesome. And what I would love to do is probably I would add some chicken to this, just because I do incorporate both plant and animal proteins into my day. Loaded buffalo sweet potatoes, this looks so good. So many great recipes. And if there are any questions, feel free to write them in the chat box. We would love to answer anything that you may have.
So we have one question. Our pro rehearsals were always 7 to 11 p.m., home at midnight. Also not sure how this would be doable as a performer with shows at night. You want to start and I'll chime in?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so it can be hard. And when it comes to, I'm assuming the question is how we meet our needs when it's late at night. So what I would be recommending is still, I would make the goal of every 3 to 4 hours. When it comes to sleep and eating too late, what I would, relating to sleep. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So if you cannot get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night, so let's say, let's say you can't get the 10 hours of sleep every night. If you can get 8, wonderful. If you can't, there are studies that show if you go to bed the same time each night and don't disrupt that sleep, like don't wake up in the middle of the night, then you are okay. So going to sleep each night around the same time and getting the same amount of sleep every night and not having your sleep disrupted will give you those same benefits. So it's all about training the body. And then I had another question that came in about, do you recommend an extra hour of sleep per day on days that dancers have classes or training, or daily in general? So I would just say that if you are a dancer and you are consistently training, even if you have like an off day or an off week, I would still make it a goal to get that 8 to 10 hours, at least that 8 hours. And then once you do increase training, increase it by 1 to 2 hours during that time.
Yeah, and younger adolescents just in general need more sleep at baseline. So if we're talking about like a dancer who's maybe in junior high or high school, they're at baseline, they're gonna need more hours of sleep just because they're still growing.
And other thing I was going to add to that first question is sometimes dancers are on tour and sometimes dancers are in a different time zone.
Mm-hmm.
So again, training yourself a few days before that those rehearsal times, like for example, if you know you're going to sleep at 12 or past midnight for the next 3 days, like start by doing that tonight and then do that consistently so that your body gets used to it.
Right. And then we have a question from Jessica. What should competition day look like? I find dancers are snacking on lollies before and between routines. We actually have a really good, this is like a whole other presentation, but we actually have a really good handout that we are going to send. And then just be looking forward to, we're going to be posting a lot on competition and fueling for that, but the same principles apply. Eat every 3 to 4 hours. We want something before we go dance. We want to stay hydrated, sip on water, and then have that nice recovery meal. Yasi, you want to add something to that?
About performances, like how to
competition day, just real briefly.
Yeah, so real briefly, those performance plates that Melissa included, it's a great place consistently to have the moderate plate, but then on performance days or like the night before performance, go to that competition plate, just because on performance day there may be foods that you can't tolerate, you might get nervous and you don't want to eat. So make sure that the days leading up to performance you have met your needs and you have hydrated well, because going into performance there may be a chance you're just gonna have the jitters and you're like, I don't want to eat anything. So prepare the night before. And
Yes, and I would just like to piggyback on that is to try out your competition day foods before competition day. So at dress rehearsal or on your long practice days, try out those foods. And if you are a dance coach or a dance teacher and you're talking about your students, have a dance mom bring in the same types of things on a long rehearsal day. So during competition day, they are aware that, okay, I'm going to have my turkey sandwich because that's what I always have after dance, and they're used to it. And it's one more thing of predictability that's going to bring down the stress of competition day, because they're like, okay, I know, like, this is comforting. I know my turkey sandwich, I'm good. So I would just add that as well. Okay. So with that being said, thank you so much. If you have any other questions, feel free to email us directly and follow us on Instagram. Thank you, Yasi, for joining us this evening. We are going to transition to our last segment of the evening by Jenn and Kathryn. Jenn, by the way, today is Jenn's birthday and she's here with us. So yay, happy birthday, Jenn. Jenn, I'm like so distracted because I just like had to blurt that out. Okay, so Jenn is an Atlanta-based creative movement artist and educator. She's received her Bachelor of Fine Arts at the University of Florida. During her undergrad experience, she has presented work at UF's annual research symposium, was an understudy for Jose Limon's The Traitor, and performed internationally at the Florence Dance Festival in Florence, Italy. In 2019, Jenn moved to Atlanta and has worked with various artists in the area. She is currently a dancer at dance instructor at Legacy Dance Center, where she finds intense passion and humanity in as an educator, as well as serving the Dance ATL's community committee. Her work has been presented on Dance Canvas's Palette Project, Fall Dance Festival, and the Medium Collective's play, Risk and Research. Jenn's work seeks to explore the body, mind, and soul connection of one's physical and mental spirit and how it manifests and translates into a greater world around us. She's currently a company dancer at ALA Dance. And then we have Kathryn. She is from Tampa, Florida, where she received her formal training at Patel Conservatory Youth Ballet and Next Generation Ballet. While training, she attended summer intensives at Orlando Ballet and Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet, Saratoga Summer Dance Intensive, and Miami City Ballet. Kathryn graduated magna cum laude with her Bachelor of Fine Arts in Dance from the University of Florida. She has also trained with the Hubbard Street Dance Pre-Professional Intensive, USF's Dance in Paris program, and was selected to perform at the Dumbo Dance Festival in New York. Kathryn has had the privilege of being at the rehearsal of Dante Puleo. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, Dante Puleo.
Thank you, where she helped set the a choreographic offering and choreograph with Jose Limon. She recently moved to Atlanta, where she is a company member at ALA Dance, in addition to teaching and choreographing. So welcome, y'all. I am going to pull up your slides. Give me one moment. Okay.
Wonderful. So I guess we can get started, Kathryn. So our sections more or less along the lines of like body image, and then health and wellness of the dancer. So more or less we'll be talking about the detriments, of body comparison and attaining an unrealistic aesthetic within the world of dance. Next slide, please. So just an about us, if Kathryn, you want to take it away?
Sure. So we just kind of wanted to give a little more about our background and kind of specifically how it pertains to the topic we'll be discussing. So myself, I kind of grew up traditionally training in ballet, and that was most of what I did kind of all through starting off early on in elementary school all the way through high school. And then I had a series of injuries that kind of made the ballet route not really as possible for me, and kind of started switching more into contemporary, modern, hip hop, jazz, all of that kind of stuff in high school. Started getting into more competitions and my high school dance team and things like that in high school. But those injuries kind of got me really interested in injury prevention and reducing the risk of injury, and having experience going to physical therapists and things like that, and seeing a difference between physical therapists who had worked with dancers versus those who hadn't. It made such a difference in my recovery, and kind of helped me to understand my body more as well. So then going into college, I danced in college. I was a dance major, but I was also on the pre-physical therapy track to kind of learn more about that side of things. Yeah, Jenn?
So yes, more or less like Kathryn as well. I grew up in the ballet school. I trained in a ballet conservatory. Along with that, I went to performing arts middle and high school. So I was dancing all day, every day, all hours of the day. And just pertaining to what I'll be discussing in this panel at the moment, it kind of made me want to desire to be this ballet dancer that my body couldn't become. Like I'm not the 6'1" ballet dancer, so I started to have all these ideas instilled in me at such a young age, that there's a certain mold I needed to fit. And because I was exposed to this type of thinking at such a young age, it became a thought pattern that it was very, very hard to shake. And it kind of instilled with me for a very long portion of my life. So definitely, I'm a big advocate for body positivity and celebrating all types of bodies, and like the bear what it does for us just as living vessels. So that's a little bit my background pertaining to this subject, and how the ballet school and just what has been preached of what the ideal body type, air quotes, should be. So I think we're ready to go to the next slide, Kathryn. Perfect. So we'll just be providing a brief overview of what we'll be discussing. So we'll go along to topics of body image, body comparison. A huge one is competition culture, the detriments of aesthetic ideals, and understanding his bodies as facilitators and not image makers. Next slide, please. All right, wonderful. So body image. Just for everyone.
Sorry, Jenn, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Do you mind either coming a little closer to your computer or just like speaking just a hair louder?
Yes, I apologize. Is it a little bit better now?
Maybe it's just, try again.
Is it a little bit better now? I apologize, everyone.
It might be your headphones, the microphone on them.
Because I'm actually using my built-in microphone within. Let me switch this. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's a little better now.
Okay, I'll just make sure I talk a lot louder and a lot clearer. I do apologize, everyone.
It's okay.
Perfect. A little bit better. Thumbs up. Cool. So going off of the topic of body image, so more or less just a general recognition that all bodies are different. Where everyone's different in regards to their height, dimensions, proportions, and just essentially elements that we cannot control. It's all an element of our genetics. So I just find within the dance world as well, especially what is portrayed in media, even that goes to Instagram, Twitter, even just cartoons of how dancers are made, it's one typical body type. And I just found, even like experience with myself, that when we focus too much on our body shape, it takes away from what we're doing in actual dance class itself. It takes away from the pedagogy. And we become preoccupied with the image rather than what we were doing or what we were actually trying to learn in class, or what the real objective of us being in a dance class is. We do realize that it is a dance class. We are in front of a mirror. Hours at the end of the day more than the average human being. Typically a mirror is what we use to get ready in the morning, and we're not meant to be in front of something that's reflecting our image for such a long period of time, for multiple hours every day, and especially at such a young age too. So a lot of in dance classes too, when we do have this pre-notion of what a body should look like, it could lead towards body dysmorphic thoughts. So I attach a little definition there that body dysmorphic disorder is a mental health disorder in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived, big words, perceived defects or flaws in our appearance, a flaw that essentially cannot be seen by others, but it's one that we see within ourselves. So it's more or less along the lines of being hypersensitive, or hyper-aware isn't necessarily the best term to put it, but we are seeing something that necessarily isn't true because we believe that it's a flaw within ourselves. So definitely when we have this comparison to the ideal dancer, negative thoughts can start to infiltrate our heads of what we think about our own size. And it just goes along the questions I mentioned before. Are we truly seeing it as is? Or is this a predefined idea that in the dance world of what a body should look like, it's taught to be a flaw because we're seeing ourselves as different. And then again, that is the word. When I say the word different, it's not necessarily bad. It's just a different, it's just a difference. It's whether you like apples or oranges, you're not like different types of body shapes. So this leads to mental processes as a huge detriment, especially when it comes to our eating patterns, how we're comparing ourselves to other people inside the class. And these types of thoughts not only protrude within the dance class, it can resonate very, very deeply inside the dance class where our area of focus is, but then it can linger outside the body. So, for example, just pertaining that we talked about nutrition for a beautiful portion of this panel. If we're in a big state of hunger because we're not feeling ourselves before a class, we may find ourselves, as you mentioned, well, Melissa mentioned before as well, we're in this state of hunger where we're just hyper fixating or over preoccupying what we're going to have for lunch. So, or maybe dinner. Say we're in a long rehearsal from, as a young dancer, 5 to 8 o'clock at night. That's a huge chunk of time. If we're starving, we're losing out learning choreography. We're losing out on maybe someone in your class or your teacher gave a wonderful direction. Like, this is how you can land your pirouettes, you know, and you completely miss it because you're just fixing on, when I get home, I'm going to eat this, I'm going to do that. And then it just takes away from presence. So that infiltrates to where we are within that moment. On the flip side of that as well, maybe we had a breakfast. If there's a state of guilt over what we eat, rather than seeing food as fuel, more than just like we're having this massive guilt, because food is fuel. It helps us live, because helps us even outside of dance as athletes. It's the bare requirement we need to keep going on every day. Maybe you're over preoccupying about what you ate before. Maybe you could be at school and you're sitting in a test. You have blurred vision, and maybe you're, again, not eating enough or having guilt over what you ate. And maybe you're having, because you're not eating enough, you're having a blurred vision, or maybe you felt like you overate and that's the only thing you can think on. And maybe you failed your test. Maybe you spent hours and hours studying, but this one thing that's taking not a priority, but precedence over our normal pattern of thinking has affected our performance and other outside areas of our life. So again, just going from top to bottom really quickly, we are built differently, and there's not one size fits all. Next slide, please, if you may. So more or less, it touches again on the subject of body comparison. Everyone's different. Everyone carries weight in different ways, shapes, and forms. So again, just a general understanding that is out of our control, and that our body naturally puts weight where it needs to be to allow us and live and exercise safely. So even like one person may eat the same amount, it's going to go in a different area, and that is just fine. We're all built very, very uniquely. But again, it's like taller bodies may look different from shorter ones. But again, it's something that we should celebrate, because again, our bodies are facilitators. Then going in, as I want to resort back to predefined ideas of what the ideal type is, again, like it is a preference inside the dance space. It is not a necessity. As I mentioned before, as one would prefer apples or over oranges, both are great fruits. I love both personally. So dimensions of one body as well, just to touch on that, it does not ensure functionality. We cannot perform at a maximum capability if we're not acknowledging how it is built. If we're one body type striving at, which is completely unobtainable, a 5'1" person will never be a 6'1" person. It is impossible. So why strive to reach something that is not within our scope or within our capability? We want to be the best facilitators. I'm going to slow down for a second. Within our own space. So we need to make sure we're feeling ourselves properly. Focusing on the craft at hand in class, and not merely focusing on the image, because the image isn't going to make the product happen. I have seen 6'1" dancers do pirouettes, and I've seen 5'1" dancers do pirouettes. Is it because they were built a certain way? No, it's because what we're actively focused on in class and prioritizing what matters. So, and again, it does go along the lines of celebrating what we look like. Strength derives from feeling our bodies, listening to it, and just attention to what we intake and how it makes us feel. Again, pertaining for the nutrition conversation, just finding out foods that sit well with us, foods that serve us better. Like everyone has different dietary needs or different preferences, just seeing how that makes us feel. Very, very important to fuel ourselves before a long dance rehearsal or along a dance class, because again, that haze will take away what we're actually trying to achieve. So again, going along the lines, there isn't one ideal body type that makes us either a dancer or an athlete. Me personally, I believe that dancers are athletes. We're both, well, rephrase that, we're both artists and athletes too. So as much as we have a massive creative intellect, we need to fuel ourselves the same as any soccer player or basketball player. I always like to think of dancers as hyperhumans too, because we're doing the whole shebang. have this creative intellect to us, and we also have this physical demand too. So again, just going along the lines that we want to focus on our craft and our pedagogy in class rather than the image, because really at the end of the day, the image isn't that really big of a deal. Like for me, even as a teacher myself, I like seeing the strong dancer. Me as an educator, even choreographer or a dancer myself, like the most beautiful thing is strength in a dancer. So that is what I value, and I really, really hope that it translates in this panel as well. So again, just like these are rhetorical questions. So, what is your intention walk into a dance classroom, and what makes you enjoy dance? Are you there to be hard on yourself, or are you there to enjoy the craft and pick up a skill that really trickles down into other aspects of our lives? So I think we can go to the next slide. Take it away, Kathryn.
So when we're talking about competition culture, it's not necessarily referring to, when you go to a competition and you're competing against other studios and, performing group numbers and solos. It's the competition that naturally comes up between our peers in the dance world, in a dance class. Usually kind of within your own studio, the people that you're seeing on a day-to-day basis. And because of the competitive nature of dance, what with competing against our peers for different roles or, certain spots in a dance, whatever it may be, naturally we go to this comparison between ourselves and our peers. And comparison is natural. It's human. We all do it. It's how we find people we relate to and make friends and things like that. But it can become detrimental when you use it as a form of self-criticism and you take it to a place that is more negative. So it's like I said, natural to notice differences between you and your peers. But what we want to get away from is focusing and fixating on like physical characteristics, because like Jenn said, we're all built differently. We can't change our genetic makeup and the way our bodies are built. So there's no sense in fixating on so-and-so's body is built this certain way, or so-and-so can get their leg higher than me or do all these things, or they look a certain way and I don't look that way, like, and getting upset about it, because it's not gonna do us any good. And the more we think about it and fixate on it, it's just gonna be more negative for us. But there is a way to be in healthy competition with ourselves and our peers and the people around us. And that's what we want to try to do. We want to make that competitive environment a positive competition and a healthy competition. And so, like I said, we can do that by not fixating on those physical characteristics, but you can look to more of like habits and things that people are doing. You want to focus on healthy habits. So if your friend has gotten her split before you, or her ponche, or different things like that, maybe she's stretching more, maybe she's doing her cool down after class, maybe she has a really great work ethic in class and she's really focused and really locked in and she's in class. We want to pick up on those kinds of things rather than, oh, her body looks like this and she can do this and she can do all these turns and lift her leg and I can't do this. Because the more we focus on those negative things, it's not gonna help us. We can all get to certain places, but everybody takes their own path and their own journey, and it's important to remember that too. It's also important to congratulate our friends and our peers when they have successes. You want them to congratulate you when you do something well, and you want to do the same for them, because in doing that, we make the dance studio a positive environment. I think a lot of times it can be a very intimidating environment sometimes, especially if you're going into a new studio, a new space, you're in an audition or things like that. And it's never good to feel like you're out of place or you don't belong or things like that. You want people to encourage you and be supporting you. And if you put that out into the environment, people are going to give that back to you. And a good thing to do is be in competition with yourself. So don't focus on what your friend can do and what she's doing next to you, but try to be at your personal best every day. Be better than you were the day before, and focus on your own individual goals and how you can reach them, because the way you do that is going to be completely different than the way somebody else does that. So just focus on your own personal goals. And just remember that dance is supposed to be fun. We can get in our heads and get so focused on how intense it is because we're training these crazy hours and trying to do all these crazy things with our body, but it's supposed to be fun and we're doing it because we love it. And if we don't love it, then why are we doing it? But a big thing to kind of keep that voice in your head in check when you start to notice it making those comparisons or making negative comments about yourself is, as soon as you hear one of those thoughts pop in your head, say, is this accurate? Is this a true statement? Like, why do I think this about myself? Is it because somebody told me this? Am I just thinking about myself? Sometimes you can get these thoughts of, oh, my teacher is thinking this thing about me, or they like this person better than me. But like, are those things that you're just thinking about yourself and you're projecting out there? We want to make sure that, we're keeping those things in check, because a lot of times it's just kind of in our head and we can make it into a bigger thing than it actually is. And again, when we have those thoughts, we say, like, is it accurate? And then, is it useful? If it's a comment that's negative and it's not going to make you feel any better about yourself and it's just going to kind of make you feel down, then throw it away. You don't need that. Focus on the things that are going to help you to be a better dancer and be a better performer and a better athlete, and focus on the healthier side of things. We can go to the next slide. All right. So as we kind of mentioned in dance, each style is kind of different with the things that we prioritize and have idealized in terms of aesthetic and what we prefer to see certain dancers doing or looking like, and how we think certain moves should look. But really, a lot of times those things can be these unrealistic standards. There are certain people who their bodies can do crazy things, and then suddenly those people become the norm or the things that we're trying to reach. But their bodies are super unique in the things that they're able to do, and not everybody's body is going to be able to do that, and that's totally fine. But that's something that we need to understand as well. And when we're trying to attain these really unrealistic things with our bodies, it can be really detrimental for us. And a lot of times those things come into play through our environmental influences. So oftentimes, if you see there, like you said, certain styles of dance, I grew up in a ballet environment where there's kind of this very specific ballet body mold that a lot of people idealize. And so that was something that I thought that I needed to look like, but that's not what my body looks like. And it's not realistic for me to try to make my body look like somebody else's. My body looks the way it does, and that's totally fine. But I believed that I had to look a certain way because of my environment. And again, certain style preferences, hip hop dancers look different than ballet dancers, look different than tap dancers. Everybody's going to be different. And so that is something that comes into play with that too. And then personal preferences. There's going to be directors and choreographers and teachers and different people who all have different preferences. And that's totally fine. And that's good because everybody is different. And so it's important to gravitate towards those people who like you for you and want you exactly the way you are. and understanding your personal anatomic structure and its limitations. So that's super important to know what your body is capable of and the things that come natural to you. So in dance, there's this idea of somebody who's, has natural turnout or natural this or whatever. For some people, these things come easily, more so to some than others. And it's important to understand what is too much for your body. So for me, I'm not somebody who has perfect turnout. So it's not realistic for me to have, 180-degree turnout with my leg all the way completely turned out to the side, whatever, if my leg is up or in first position, whatever. But that's okay, because that's not necessary to, to be a dancer. You don't have to have perfect turnout, your legs all the way up to your ear, but that's something that we've, as a dance society and culture, have come to believe that we need to be able to do these things. Not everybody's body can do these things. There's also different ways to achieve these things. So your friend may be able to get her leg up and she's supernaturally flexible, but for you, you may have to work certain muscles and it may take longer, and that's totally fine. There's multiple ways to achieve the same goal, but it's really important to understand your body and the way it's set up and what you're capable of, and not push it past what it's able to do. And kind of like I said, there's a difference between proper technique versus these aesthetic preferences. So a first position is your heels together and your toes apart, but we believe, some people believe that, it has to be a full 180-degree turnout straight line. Not everybody's body is capable of doing that, and that's totally fine. So it's really important to understand what is true technique and what is just this aesthetic preference that some people want to see. And if that's something that dancers are unsure about, it's really good to talk to your teachers and kind of get input from maybe some different teachers of their understandings of things to kind of help better understand that. And we never want to risk injury for the sake of these aesthetic preferences, because they're not necessary, and it's just gonna cause us more harm than good. We don't want to sacrifice our body in the short term to try to achieve this one specific thing, and then harm us in the long term. If I'm trying to get my leg up to my ear just for the sake of getting it up there, but I'm not doing it in a safe way, then I'm going to cause more harm for myself than good, rather than working on it and trying to get it in a healthy and safe way. All right, so these are some injuries that are super common amongst adolescent dancers, and that have come up as a result of trying to attain this aesthetic standard that we've seen in dance. So chronic and overuse injuries are super common amongst dancers, and those come from doing the same thing over and over again to a point where it causes harm to your body. And specifically, we see that when dancers are using improper technique to attain these aesthetic goals. So if you're forcing your turnout or getting your leg up in a way that's not safe, and you're doing that over and over again, your body's not meant to be doing that, and so it's going to cause you harm, and you're going to get injured, and it's going to be a much more severe injury and a longer recovery process for you because of that, the nature of that injury. There are also a lot of range of motion injuries that we see with adolescent dancers, because you're in a period of growth. Your body is changing, and maybe you're not as flexible as you used to be because your body is in the state of growth. That doesn't mean you're always going to be in the stage. You're still growing and developing and changing. But right now in this moment, your body is a little different than it was, and that's okay. But when we try to force our body into a position that it used to be able to do, and right now it's not quite able to do that, it's going to cause harm to us. And then specifically, adolescent dancers are at a higher risk of injury than other adolescent athlete populations. So dancers in high school are at a higher risk of injury than their peers who are playing soccer and lacrosse and doing all these other sports. And that's because of the intense training levels and early exposure to a professional level of work while still at this pre-professional status. So I think in dance, we've gotten to a point where, you know, we feel like we have to be training all the time and have these crazy hours after school and be dancing all day, every day to try to reach this professional level. And even if you're not trying to reach a professional level, this competitive nature has kind of exposed us to very intense training levels that we're seeing greater risk of injury amongst this population. And then again, specifically in this demographic, the most common injuries that we're seeing are parts of our body specifically relating to things that we typically see with improper technique. So plantar flexion in your ankles, that has to do with pointing your feet. So if you're maybe winging or sickling your foot to try to make it look a certain way and attain this aesthetic image without actually putting in the proper work to strengthen your ankles and do the things you need to, we're seeing injuries with that. Same with your hips. So external rotation, that's your turnout. Abduction, that's lifting your leg. Same thing, if you're trying to attain those things in proper ways and not using the right muscles and strengthening your body in the way it's supposed to attain those things, you're going to get injured. Same with your knees. A lot of knee injuries come from forcing turnout and doing different things like that. And when you're not strengthening the proper muscles, it's super detrimental to you.
So yeah, just key points. I hope that everyone can have a great takeaway from this conversation. Again, our bodies are facilitators of strength rather than creating aesthetic created by preconceived notions of what a body, again, big air quotes, should look like. And again, just prioritizing your health and the longevity of your body rather than focusing on the things we think we have to do as a dancer, but aren't quite necessary. And again, as like Kathryn mentioned before as well, checking in your own internal dialogue in class. And then again, for me too, a big one, and I know for Kathryn as well, just waking up every day and thanking our bodies for what it does just at the bare minimum for us. So next slide, I guess. These are just resources that both me and Kathryn have provided. So if you would love to take a screenshot of that. And then I guess our final slide.
Sorry, Jen. For the doctor and physical therapist resources, the Doctors for Dancers one is a great one for if you're anywhere in the US. It's super helpful. There are a ton of resources. You can enter in your location and it'll bring up a list of dancer specific health professionals. So, you know, doctors, dietitians, nutritionists, physical therapists, athletic trainers, a whole slew of people who are trained specifically to work with dancers who can really understand what your body needs to be able to do as a dancer. And then the other two links on there are a little more Atlanta specific. If you're in the area, those are great resources for physical therapists here.
I guess I can briefly talk about my resources as well. So the first two is more or less that explains health consequences for eating disorders. And then the other one's actually an interactive online contact support. You can actually chat with people online. So, and then BetterHelp, that is more of a subscription basis. But again, if you feel like you're in the place that's something that you do need, I do recommend taking advantage of that. It's a great resource. And then here are me and Kathryn's affiliations. So
I think that's it from us.
Thank you so much, Kathryn and Jenn. And thank you, Jenn, again, happy birthday. What a great way to thank you for spending your birthday with us. And what a great way to share your gift and your love of dance to be here with us and talk about a really important topic. I'd like to thank everyone who hung in there. And if there's any other lingering questions, let us know. If not, we will go ahead and conclude our session tonight. If you need to reach us again, you can go to thebridgedanceproject.com. You can go to at the Bridge Dance Project on Instagram, and you can reach our Atlanta chapter with bridgedanceatl@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you so much for all of our presenters. Have a great evening and keep on dancing. Bye.
Bye, thank you.